Put them down, boys.
What is that thing on your face?
Yeah, puberty's right around the corner, kid. You can grow your own.
In an era of rampantly politically divisive films, a dumb, fun action flick may be exactly what audiences need. Uncharted released into theaters this weekend, simply trying to entertain fans and provide a needed escapism. Did it succeed in that attempt? Let's get into it. Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and though I've never played the Uncharted games, I've always respected that fandom and story. Uncharted is good at what it's trying to be, but terrible at being an adaptation. Sure, there's the bombastic action set pieces torn directly from the games, but the core characters and the heart of the games were left untouched. I did enjoy the film and thought it was good, again, for what it was trying to be. However, I can completely understand fans of the games being angry and put off by this film with its lack of adherence to the characters. For me, the brainless action, Marvel humor, and predictable plot were enough for me to be drawn in to enjoy this film. There will be spoilers ahead, but if you want a spoiler-free review, check out my review on geeksandgamers.com. Uncharted follows Nathan Drake, a bartender moonlighting as a pickpocket. But when an old friend of his brother, Sully, comes to him with the chance for adventure, they will set out together in search of gold. Together, they'll follow in the footsteps of Nathan's brother Sam in search of Magellan's gold. On their journey, they're thwarted at every turn by Makata and his horde of goons, as well as the constant betrayals of Sully himself and a mysterious woman Chloe, who changes sides more than the Dean and community. Just before the treasure is within reach of all parties involved, Braddock, Sully's ex-partner and Makata's chief goon, murders Makata out of spite and takes over the operation, bringing intense ruthlessness to the hunt for the treasure before the others can find it. After several bombastic action set pieces, Braddock dies and the treasure is lost to the sea, soon to be recovered by the local government, leaving everyone mostly empty-handed. For the first time as friends, Sully and Nathan set out into the world in search of their next score, beginning a whole new adventure. Despite a mostly empty plot, Uncharted manages to marry the historical intrigue of National Treasure with the over-the-top action of the Pirates of the Caribbean films in a fun and interesting way. This film isn't trying to be the Da Vinci Code or wholly National Treasure, so it doesn't try to be. It accepts its simple story and does the best it can with it, focusing instead on fun action and likable characters. In this, it excels, being exactly what it tries to be. That may not be for everyone, which is understandable, but in current Hollywood, I believe that dumb fun movies like this doing well are essential in swinging the pendulum back to political neutrality, making Hollywood's number one rule, once again, entertainment. Irregardless of my personal feelings, a look at what critics and fans are thinking is in order. As you can see, some very strange things are happening on Rotten Tomatoes. Despite having over 250 reviews, the audience score hasn't been rated yet, which is very strange. There's more than enough reviews there to make an accurate guess at what the overall percentage would be. And the critics, of course, are giving it a rather low one. It's a dumb, fun action movie with little to no political messaging, so I can see why they wouldn't like it. But let's read some of these individual ones. Simply put, it is not rocket science, but it is an incredibly enjoyable popcorn movie. It pays tributes to the games in its action sequences. Tom Holland proves once again that he is a true joy to watch. And that's pretty fair, a little bit higher than I personally would give it. But yeah, it's very much a popcorn movie. It doesn't try to be smart. It doesn't try to make you think. It's just there to entertain you for a brief span of time. Just watched Uncharted. It was really good, very enjoyable. Action-packed just like the games. Tom Holland was fantastic as Nathan Drake. Tom and Mark had fantastic chemistry, easily standouts. Probably best video game film I've ever seen. Ooh, I wouldn't go that far, I don't believe. But Tom and Mark did have some fun chemistry. If you don't like Marvel humor, I don't foresee you enjoying their chemistry, but they had some good scenes together that were quite enjoyable. Very enjoyable movie with great action, comedy, and drama, yeah. Giving this 1 star because I like the acting mostly, although everyone is pretty badly miscast. I can agree with that to a certain extent. Holland and Wahlberg are good actors, therefore the performances themselves are decent enough. They were just wrong for the roles. That's kind of how I feel about it. The script felt like it was written by someone who had seen pieces of Uncharted games but never actually played them. The movie also feels cheap in a way. Until the last act, everything just felt so simple. I was really bummed about this one. It's a lot lower than I would get. Oh, and we got a half star here. The actors had to carry the entire film, and I felt really bad for them. The screenwriting was terrible, very cliche, very predictable, and overall bad. The cinematography was horrendous. I didn't notice any terrible cinematography. That's strange, as well as the editing in most scenes. Besides the actors carrying this film, I can go give props to the stunt choreographer. Yep, the fight scenes were quite good. But besides that, the movie was a bust. It felt like watching a bunch of random strangers attempting to figure out I'd have an escape room. Would not watch it again. And then some more positive ones. Fun, fancy treasure hunt film. Loved it. Can't wait for a sequel. That's mostly positive. There are these two really low ones, but I imagine in the end, based on at least this, that it'll probably get about 60, 75% maybe on the audience score once Rotten Tomatoes does whatever calculations that they need to, which is kind of where I'd put it as well. Not really 5 stars and not 2 stars, so just kind of good, but that pretty much sums it up for me. And let's see what the critics are seeing. With such a low score, I'm imagining some pretty terrible reviews. Uncharted, you say? That's a funny title for an action-adventure movie that doesn't stray 1 inch from the well-treaded path of what came before it. It can feel that way, and you can definitely label that criticism at it. It'll still be enjoyable, even if it's formulaic. As a standalone film, this is a perfunctory action film that consists of shallow characters who exist to move between decent set pieces. It's fine, but it could be a lot better. One of those movies that isn't particularly special in the macro, but does all the little things right. That's an interesting way of putting it. Not really anything stand out in these reviews. I don't hate this Uncharted movie, but if you go to the movies and are an Uncharted fan, I feel like you're going to find it lacking. Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Comparisons to Disney's National Treasure are inevitable. How far Uncharted is more in line with the comic nonsense that didn't connect in the infamous Bruce Willis failure, Hudson Hawk. I'm not familiar with that. It aims high but settles low and follows all too familiar charted map. Yeah, they don't really have anything too crazy in here. Indiana Jones knockoff. Wahlberg addresses Holland as a kid so often in this movie that college students everywhere will create a drinking game in his honor. That is kind of funny. Sully's supposed to be a lot older than he is, at least from the game standpoint, from what I know. So yeah, that is kind of funny in that context. But, I find myself disagreeing with the critics as usual. 38% is way too low for this film, and based on what I can gather of the audience score, I'm very much in line to what the overall consensus on this film would be. I've touched on it slightly, but it deserves a more in-depth look. Is the film woke or political in an undue fashion? Yes and no. Yes, in as much as every modern-day film must be to get studio funding, meaning it strives for the smallest woke possible. It's woke in several throwaway lines and individual moments, but the overall story and characters are mostly free of political influence. Female empowerment was the focus of all these few woke moments. For example, the film's main villain is depicted as a whiny daddy's boy who can never get out of his father's shadow. He's in his 50s, but he still lives off his father like a college dropout. Additionally, his second-in-command is depicted as better than him and smarter in nearly all of her scenes, despite never showing us anything concrete to lead to that assumption. All this drives down his intimidation, makes it hard to worry about him as an antagonist. Then near the end, Braddock, his second-in-command, kills him because he gave command of his troops to someone else after she fucked up several times. Then she just says, "Go see your daddy now, you weak man." After that, all his troops just blindly follow Braddock instead. No, they wouldn't have. Mikado was the one paying them. Braddock has no access to the Mikado fortune, so she has no way to pay them, nor call in additional help or equipment if necessary. By killing Mikado, she would have actually taken away all the competition for Drake and Sully, making the third act easy and pointless. Instead, what little logic the film has is thrown out the window to mock a weak man and show how much better a strong woman is in his position. Despite all that, the film quickly moves past this issue and still delivers a good third act that would have transpired the same if Mikado was still alive. In the end, it was distracting and annoying, but otherwise unimpactful. So, yes, the film is woke to a certain extent, but not in an enjoyment-destroying manner.
You are a collector.
Well, I dabble.
I don't dabble. My family has been looking for this fortune for a very long time. So much blood.
In spite of Antonio Banderas' sheer fucking talent, His antagonist character became one of the worst parts of the movie, when it easily could have been the best. The film can't decide on what type of character he is. Is he the cunning, intimidating, ruthless, greedy businessman out to reclaim the gold that's rightfully his? Or is he the whiny daddy's boy who does everything out of a childish desire to spite his father? The film cannot decide, constantly switching in between the two, making it impossible to be intimidated by him or worried about him reaching the gold first. Antonio is a phenomenal actor, but even he cannot redeem this inconsistent contradiction of a character.
Hey! Hey! Come on!
Braddock is by far the worst part of the film. We're constantly told how scary, intelligent, and badass she is, but we never see her do anything genuinely frightening, and she constantly makes insane decisions and fucks up constantly. Her fight with Sully was one of the only halfway believable things about her character throughout the film. The choreography masterfully showed her using several techniques to outbalance Wahlberg's strength and size difference. Beyond that, she just broods and whines about being replaced after she fucked up. They had an opportunity to redeem her character after she killed Moncada. If the writers would have shown her struggle to keep her men following her after murdering the Piggy Bane, using immense cunning, intimidation, and tact to get them to follow her, it could have gone a long way for the audience to finally see her as the cunning badass we were constantly told she was. Instead, the henchmen just shrug and follow orders. They needed to question her rule and be given a good reason to keep following her. As such, she comes off as an evil Mary Sue variant, who everyone just loves and obeys for no reason. If you took her out of the movie entirely, very little would change, and her inclusion just serves to break the audience's immersion.
Nate! This is not a time for shots, let's go!
Chloe's inclusion felt like a last-minute shoehorned attempt to drag out the runtime, adding very little in terms of character or plot. She wasn't offensively bad, but she wasn't good either. It felt like the writers took a day off whenever her scenes came up and let the intern finish their work. Her characterization was weak and inconsistent, feeling like someone would say, "Nothing's been happening for a while, we need a betrayal," and she would be there to allow for that generic betrayal.
I'm pretty sure he just threatened to kill me.
Don't touch your ear like that. You look like an idiot.
Sully is a mess, but for very strange reasons. You're constantly told not to trust Sully and that he's actually a terrible person, but that's diametrically opposed to the fun and likable portrayal that Mark Wahlberg delivers. Though being the least like his game counterpart, I really enjoyed Mark's performance, despite the story inconsistency surrounding him. When you've got the charm of Mark, it's hard to dull it down into grumpy old man. I wouldn't call him a good character by any means, but he was a fun one nonetheless.
And you're a comedian, dear sunshine.
Okay, I got it. Sex on the beach.
I do think Tom Holland was terrible casting for the game's Nathan Drake, but if you enjoy his Spider-Man performance, you'll find something to like here, because he's basically playing the same character. Nathan's arc was empty and vapid. The film tries to convince you that he's a genius, despite only giving him simple puzzles, before having him do some incredibly stupid things. As such, his characterization was very inconsistent, which made it difficult to connect with him most of the time. His boyish charm and humor are likable as usual, but it comes across as more Spider-Man hunting treasure than Nathan Drake. There's not much more to say about him beyond that because he didn't really have much to do. He didn't have much of an arc besides learning not to trust anyone, right before deciding to trust Sully completely. Again, if you like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, you'll like him in this movie, but if you wanted to see the true Nathan Drake on screen, you'll be sorely disappointed. In the end, Uncharted is a dumb fun action flick that offers nothing new to audiences, but provides a fun distraction and a bit of needed escapism. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.